So, my most popular video, by far, is my How Many Times Did Johnny Bravo Win video, where I counted every time Johnny liked a girl and she surprisingly liked him back, and didn't end with her hating him. It was a great idea for a video, no doubt everyone who watched the show was interested in it. It did make me wonder if there's any other types of characters who can have a similar thing, and one immediately comes to mind, Brock from Pokemon. Now, Brock and Johnny are very different characters, one's an egotistical, brain-dead himbo, and the other a somewhat dependable, confident, and caring trainer, basically being like a perfect big brother figure. But they have one big thing in common. They are both down bad for nearly every girl they meet and just as often get rejected. I mean, literally, whenever a somewhat attractive girl shows up, Brock's all over that. Hell, him flirting with them is one of the things you can expect when Officer Jenny or Nurse Joy appear, also giving us a really pretty good song in the anime soundtrack about it.
A one-woman man's what I wanna be, but there's two perfect girls for me.
Like, I don't know why this exists, but I'm glad it does. Now, this part makes it incredibly easy to go through a similar format to the previous video and highlight out of all the run, the times he liked a girl and she showed interest back. No Misty, no Max, no Krogunk, and no... Oh yeah, he didn't appear after Diamond and Pearl. Sucks, he was the best character in the show objectively. We got a lot of anime to cover, and believe me, I want to get into a lot more Pokemon, and it's so much longer than the Johnny Bravo episode list, so we got a lot of content to go over, and Valentine's Day is the perfect day to do so. So let's go in and find out how many times did Brock win. Now, thing to keep in mind, I am terrified of copyright in this video since I know ShowPro is very harsh with footage. I mean, I took down Suede's channel and his Pokemon anime reviews were amazing. Like, it's an actual travesty they were taken down. So, I'm going to flip as much video as possible and only play audio clips when absolutely necessary and freeze frame. Sorry, but in this hell that is YouTube copyright, better to be safe than sorry. But yeah, I don't think it's a hot take to say that Brock is the best Pokemon companion, like S tier on the tier list. Like, he is so lovable, so charismatic, dependable, and cool, that I was his friend in real life. He is the definition of a bro. And he is such a good bro that the series has struggled to actually replace him. Tracy? Boring. Silent? Even more boring. Clement? Okay, Clement's actually pretty good, but not as good as him. And Go, I want to hit over the head with a shovel. Brock was perfect from day one. Also gotta give props that despite having the similar gag, Brock's way better than Johnny about this. Johnny is probably a simp or incel that often just harasses and objectifies girls and never actually takes the hint. He is not a good role model. Brock, though, is more of a big flirt than anything. Yeah, he'll go gaga over a girl and profess her beauty and his love for her. But once he does, he's just taken away by someone and that's it, never bothers her again and oftentimes helps them regardless. He shoots his shot, gets rejected, and doesn't bother her again and moves on. Now that's good. He's a good noodle and a true role model. This is a true peak male performance. Though, actually Brock's pretty forward in flirting, don't do that. But back to the topic, we're going through this in chronological order, from Indigo to Journey, so let's get a move on. Also rules, like the Johnny video has to be Brock liking a girl and she likes him back in some established way. Now, the Indigo League in Kanto is of course where Brock came from, joining Ash and Misty in the 5th episode and pretty much every episode after until the ending of Diamond and Pearl. And yeah, more than establishes Brock's gaga gag for basically the whole run whenever there's a girl and his hormones go to complete overdrive. Except weirdly with Jesse, like that never actually comes up, that's so odd. I guess being evil is a major turnoff for him, so he does have standards. Except those Jessie Delia shippers for some reason. You do know she has tried to kill her son multiple times? But also, weirdly there's no cases of the entire run where Brock fell for a lady and she fell for him back. Susie doesn't count as Timur respects her as a breeder than falls in love with her. It got close with Florinda in Make Room for Gloom, with him getting close to a florist and helping her there, but it ends with her actually professing her love with her co-worker, and not him. Brutal. There's only one kind of like that, and it's actually in the next season in the Orange Islands arc. One I actually like quite a bit, especially that it expands Kanto in an interesting way outside of Kanto itself. Also, it literally predicted a Lola, as in Valencia Island, which as the episode I'm talking about, establishes that Pokemon have differences depending on the location of origin, and Pokemon in Valencia have unique designs. So, yeah, they literally predicted Alolan forms like 2 decades before Sun and Moon, it's freaking crazy. So the gang need to go through the Orange Islands in Valencia Island to get the GS Ball from Professor Ivy, which I'm sure will be a super satisfying and fulfilling plot in the future. Before meeting the professor and surprised to see that she's actually a hot girl absolutely rocking that swimsuit lab coat combo. Anyway, her assistants are apparently Pup named Scooby-Doo Velma after she fell in a cloning machine, and puts that totally going to lead up to something important in GS Ball plot. Surprisingly, Brock didn't flirt with Ivy, but then again he was way too overcome by her sheer girl power. Brock, though, is fascinated by Ivy's breeding research and studying the biological changes of Pokemon in different environments. He even contributes with his own knowledge of Pokemon raising and breedings, even impressing them in the Velmas.
I wonder if there's a tropical island type Pikachu.
Well, however, as Ash and Misty try to continue, Brock actually decides to stay, feeling that his skills are much more needed here, and also that it's practically his perfect life. And with a heartfelt goodbye, they separate. And honestly, if Brock had to leave the show, this is kind of the perfect way. He fulfills his dream of breeding and raising Pokemon, and works with a female professor he admires. You really can't get any better than this. Even if I wish he was around for the Orange Islands, like, I want to see his reaction to the Crystal Onyx or Prima aka Lorelei, and come on, he'd be all for the super strong Tanner's Joy here. Yeah, this was pretty much Brock's goodbye from this series, or at least intended to.
Ash? Am I canon?
No joke, he actually was written out of the show as when Pokemon was getting popular internationally, they feared Brock might be seen as an Asian stereotype with his slanted eye design and ambiguous brown skin tone, and wrote him out fearing backlash. However, it was the exact opposite. People love Brock, he's not a stereotype at all, and is one of the most popular characters. They want to see him back. Especially since his replacement, Tracy, sucks. Like, oh my god, this guy is so damn boring. Like, literally, he has no personality, he just draws and likes Professor Oak. I'm literally an artist, and I can't imagine holding a conversation with this guy. If you look past that weird headband, you'll see there's clearly nothing going on inside. When the Orange Islands wrapped up, giving us a final battle actually worth a damn, Tracy actually ends up staying in Palatine to become Oak's assistant, and sporadically makes appearances after. And Brock's randomly with Delia for no reason. But what happened with Valencia Island and Professor Ivy? That's literally like his dream come true. Well, about that, they never say what happened. Literally, when asked, it brings Brock to a traumatized state where he doesn't want to talk about it, even getting PTSD when Ivy's even mentioned. And they literally never answer it. Brock just doesn't want to talk about it, and joins the gang of Joe to deliver the oh so important, hugely plot relevant, it's gonna be so satisfying guys, trust me, this is so worth 2 seasons of build up, GS Ball to Kurt. And Professor Ivy is never seen or mentioned after this, so that just leaves whatever happened there a complete mystery. Let me tell you the biggest mysteries in Pokemon. What's under Diglett, who is Ash's father, and what the hell happened between these two. Now, there's a lot of theorizing on whatever could have happened there that would have made Brock leave and never want to mention Ivy again.
I guess we'll never know what happened. I know what happened. Brock liked Professor Ivy.
You let the cat out of the bag, kid. How come you came back?
I'll never tell!
Maybe you did something real embarrassing in front of that Professor Ivy.
Brock, Professor Ivy sends her best regards.
Granted, the actual reason is probably so they want to bring Brock back and couldn't think of a satisfying reason for Brock to leave, and then just purposely left it vague. Actually, Takeshi Shudo, the main writer of the anime, did say he'd like to think that the real answer was that Ivy was actually a lesbian, which... you know what, I could see that. But even then, just that, I don't feel Brock would have left and be traumatized by her. It must have been something really bad. But for the list, I can't count this. We have literally no idea what happened between them. If it was a misunderstanding or an extremely messy case, so I can't confirm or deny if Ivy actually returned his feelings. I'm mostly just mentioning this, no doubt people are gonna say, but what about Professor Ivy if I didn't? And it's good to give an example. So this does not count as a time that Brock won over the girl. Now to Johto, home to Eggertique City, the Whirl Islands, and seemingly endless amounts of filler for crying out loud. And that brings us to our episode, for crying out loud. Brock says that this random town they randomly walk into will have the girl of his dreams, unlike virtually every other episode with a random town they randomly walk into. But Brock has sound logic.
That cliff is the perfect spot for our first meeting.
Yeah, as soon as she meets us, she can jump right off.
Christ, Misty, I thought you were a water gym leader, not a fire type one. Seriously, there has never been another Misty in the anime. She really did add some edge to it. I appreciate it. But then meeting our gimmick Pokemon at the episode. A Merle that cries incredibly loudly when Misty tried to catch it and just generally doesn't like her. But Team Rocket randomly shows up to do the most passive kidnapping I've ever seen. God, I love how they do the motto as they drive away. These guys are the best part of the show. Also, does Meowth have a license? Luckily, Meryl's cry is so intense that it saves them, with them and Misty falling in a river separating from the group. Also, that lady from before follows them with pure hell's fury thinking they stole her Meryl. Brock takes this situation to flirt with the girl, which goes much better than you think, and also says her name is Willamina. Meanwhile, Misty's stuck with Pikachu and Meryl, and a hot-headed quick-to-anger tomboy and a loud crybaby Pokemon that doesn't like her isn't the best situation to be in. Meanwhile, Brock is getting a bit too clingy to her, but to be fair, he didn't get rejected since Misty wasn't around. But even Ash worries about it. But Willamina is more preoccupied with her precious Pokemon gone missing, but Brock actually tries to reassure her, white knighting her that he'll stop at nothing to get her Pokemon back. And she actually returns some affection. You know, it's really nice to see Brock actually get mutual affection for once. Misty should be gone more often. I feel like you all have like 5 Pokemon that can help find each other. You have literally 2 flying types. Also, while Misty, Meryl, and Pikachu get into some trouble, remember how terrifying the Pokemon world would be with 6-foot beasts with swords for arms that chase you. Brock and Willamina fall for each other more. Granted, then Brock kind of becomes an ass by saying,
We'd be happy if we find Meryl, but if we find Meryl, Willamina's gonna leave. I'm either gonna end up happy but unhappy, or unhappy but happy.
look, I do get it, you want to be with her, but you really shouldn't take her losing her Pokemon and making it all about you and implying she shouldn't get it back. Meanwhile, in a thunderstorm, Misty saves Meryl and reassures them, finally letting them closely bond, and just like that, the rain is gone. But random rocket encounter! I thought you guys already left, but they're back for an encore. Though Misty springs into action and proved they really should have used another device, but are saved by Ash's Chikorita and uses the proper rocket battle with a united team, even Meryl helping with the new bond, and blasting them off again. With Meryl saved, Willamina invites them to their lake house, but they gotta keep moving to Azalea Town. Brock says meeting her was one of his best experiences and hope they can meet again. And she actually says the same thing. No caveat, she returned his affection. Even Misty seems moved by it, or just Meryl also leaving. Unfortunately, Brock's too reasonable here.
Bye for now! I'll never see her again!
Such is the fate of the one-off supporting character. But it is legitimately sad since again, this is the first time a girl has actually returned his affection, and not as just a usual woe is me like with the failed flirt attempts. And so ends the episode on a bittersweet note. Not a bad episode, honestly. The plot is a bit boring and drawn out, especially since again, there shouldn't be too much of a struggle to find the two. But the emotional connection between Brock and Willamina and Misty with Meryl was engaging and helped it a lot more than most other filler. But especially to Brock because again, this was the one girl actually returned his affection, admiring what she did for him and helping her. This is the first time we've ever seen it, and it does make Brock's more selfish thoughts feel more reasonable, so he doesn't want to lose his first legitimate chance, but of course does the right thing. But either way, Willamina is the first girl to have returned Brock's affection. But we're still not done with Johto, since we have the next episode, The Heartbreak of Brock. This does not bode well. This takes place in the next Johto season with them heading to Olivine, but there's no center, so at the camp in a park. Can you do that? However, Brock saves the girl who looks suspiciously like Duplica from Indigo from falling, and weirdly, she falls for him, like instantly smitten with him at first glance. Her name's Tamaku, which is a really weird name, not gonna lie, and is super forward with him and for once leading Brock to deal with the other end of his own stick, feeling insanely awkward. It's actually a pretty interesting subversion. I kinda wish I did this one first. Tamaku says her name is compiled from Pokemon she connects her personality with, Teddiursa, Mareep, and Cubone. Really just renamed herself? I do again love how she starts making weird metaphors and allegories, and he's also just confused like all the time he tried it to other girls.
Imagine Brock married? You and I will be married someday too.
Where the hell did that come from? Did a Misty Ash shippers change the script secretly? This actually was only in the dub, with the original just saying that Tamaku fell for Brock instead of the other way around, so I have no idea why they added it except for a whole lot of shipping fuel. Tamaku's dad shows up, and Tamaku invites him to stay the night at their house instead of the park they may or may not be allowed to stay at. Turns out her dad is a professor having a mansion laboratory. You better be careful, laboratory mansions don't usually end well in Pokemon. Tamaku's a super great host, but Brock's just too confused and dazed to have rational thoughts. Somehow less when he's the one doing the flirting. Misty surprisingly builds up Brock for Tamaku, telling how great he is, ironically since she's the one usually pulling Brock away from relationships. Though she does ball him out for not actually taking the initiative when someone finally is giving him the chance, with him saying he's never been in a situation like this and doesn't know how to handle it. Misty practically just tells him that this is his only chance, and that he needs to actually commit to it, though by this video's existence, it's technically not. Also again, Willamina did return Brock's affection, so it's not like it's impossible. Brock's still on the fence about this, but does have a point.
Your relationship should start out with both people liking each other.
We don't really see him really liking Tamaku, she only really likes him, and he probably shouldn't just jump into a relationship that might not be mutual, but Misty doesn't care and must be shipping the two pretty hard or something.
She's your only hope! Force yourself to like her!
Okay, Misty, you're really pushing this to genuinely bad advice. Tamaku wants him to raise a Nidorino she has with her Nidorina. Which actually does sound great. Brock with the Nidoking is an awesome idea. But then Rocket showed themselves into this plot abducting all the lab Pokemon. Okay, but why are they wearing those weird Japanese outfits?
Because we felt like a twerp.
Okay, fine, jeez, I was just wondering. But yeah, pretty basic Rocket scheme, not even just using machines or a clean getaway, just net them and help you win a battle like that's always worked before. But in the conflict, Weezing uses smoke screen to make a getaway. Why don't you just do it to begin with? However, the ropes get cut as they just abduct Tamaku in the process. But Tamaku falls in love with James at first sight. Oh come on, like James is straight.
That shatters the darkness. I am a flaming Moltres.
Case in point, the word fiance gives him trauma of his psychotic arranged fiance Jezebel. Jesse and Mouth, though, want to hitch them together so he inherits the Pokemon Lab and the Pokemon, proving they learned absolutely nothing from holy matrimony.
If he marries her, James gets his inheritance.
If he survives being married to her.
Though Jesse just says they're gonna play along to get in the lab to take the Pokemon and then ditch her. Apparently though, the twerps managed to raise a full angry mob to get Tamaku back. Weird how there's 2 episodes back to back here about finding a lost girl. But at least they actually used their Pokemon this time. But while they're gone, Rocket commits to their plan in disguises, making up a story that James saved them from the real Rockets. This episode really took a turn, didn't it? Love this though.
It was perfect. Beautiful. Like something someone with an overactive imagination would dream up in her unfulfilled fantasies.
Dad buys it instantly and lets them in, as the gang falls for a destruction balloon, which they really should use more often, until one of the mob members says that Tamaku was returned safe. Word really gets around this forest. Jesse and Meowth nearly steal all the Pokemon but get distracted by the food and luxury of the mansion to James's dismay, who really doesn't want to be with Tamaku, but they probably should have hurried as the gang gets to the mansion. And they actually identify Team Rocket in their disguises for once, like seriously. This is actually an incredible rarity. These guys have Clark Kent syndrome to the max.
I've lost Tamaku!
Brock, I thought you didn't like her.
She's good enough for James, maybe she's good enough for me.
I love older Pokemon writing sometimes.
Oh! Team Rocket's trying to steal all my Pokeballs!
Yeah, we got their balls. Stop laughing.
So yeah, Rocket fight, but it is more interesting as Tamaku fights on the Rocket side. Though Misty's attack misses and hits her with a water blast. And they somehow blame them for that like they did it. Though while she's recovering from water, her dad says that she's obsessed with marriage and weddings after her cousin's wedding, which does check out. But Brock finally does proclaim his love for her, accepting it at long last. As she wakes up, it then immediately falls for the doctor. And he immediately accepts saying he will marry her to Brock's absolute dismay.
Brock, even a Pokemon breeder can't compete with a doctor.
I have a feeling this is foreshadowing.
Even though Brock's down the dumps, he quickly gets his mojo back just knowing that no doubt there's going to be the girl for him eventually. Yeah, this episode is a lot. I like the concept of a girl who falls for Brock and instead switching the roles where he's the one in shock and confusion and doesn't know what to do, even if Missy's advice is frankly terrible. But the plot does shit to be around James and it kind of starts to go all over the place, but still fine filled with the concept I wish got more focus. But yeah, Tamaku fell hard for Brock, though it is hard to tell how much of it was legitimate. And technically it did count since Brock finally professed his love for her, just to have her change her love to the unnamed doctor guy. I'm sure Brock learned a lesson from this. But yeah, Tamaku counts as the second girl who returned Brock's affection. Next we go to Hoenn, my favorite region, with frankly a disappointing anime series, but what's you gonna do? So we don't have Misty anymore, but we got May, who's okay honestly, but there's Max who fits comfortably in a trash compactor. But we still have Brock, that's all that really matters. Which brings us to an early episode, the Lotad Lowdown. Hopefully they'll have a Lotad showdown. Speaking of Lotad, it's legitimately one of the perfect Pokemon designs. Like, look at this, this is perfection. I want it, I want to love it, to hold it and cherish it. But they're taking a swim in a lake, which honestly feels pretty unsanitary. Do bacteria or diseases exist in the Pokemon world? Actually, there's Pokerush, so I guess the only viruses in the Pokemon world help you instead of trying to kill you. But they get attacked by evil green rectangles before going to the advanced opening, which I have a soft spot for, though I do hate how it builds Aqua and Magma when they're virtually irrelevant for most of the arc. Makes me wish the anime took a much more active role in tying into the region's villains. But it's actually just a bunch of friendly Lotad, reminding me a lot of that derpy pufferfish meme. But they seemingly give them a welcome and see a particular one struggling, so you know it's special. But they meet this girl Natalie, taking them to their sister's nearby florist shop, where Brock gets his Floridon with her older sisters. But it turns out Natalie is the one who has a crush on him, so it's kind of another Team Maku situation where a girl's the one who likes him, but he doesn't. In this case, cause, you know, he's mentally sane and not attracted to a kid. But of course, Rocket wants to take the Lotad because why not at this point? Brock also helps out that quirky, totally gonna be special Lotad for foreshadowing. But Natalie got lost trying to find the citrus berries Brock wanted to impress him as he had to go find her. Okay, so another episode where a girl gets lost and have to find her. Like, God, this is gonna be the rule. Anyway, said quirky Lotad followed them. There is no thought behind his eyes, his brain is empty. Anyway, they save Natalie from Beedrill, which I swear is the enemy's go-to threat in any forest situation. But she is still able to get the berries Brock wanted to her happiness. But anyway, Team Rocket butt their way into the plot somehow, requisitioning a yacht, I guess to steal low-level water Pokemon. But luckily, said Lotad is able to ferry Pikachu to the boat and do his thing, and also I guess learn Hydro Pump or something to free the others and save the day. The next day, Natalie gives Brock a berry book for his breeding, and of course said Lotad joins the team because hey, they weren't building all that for nothing. I do love Brock's Lotad though, it's so derpy and Ludicolo is iconic, I love his Hoenn team. I just wish his Mudkip evolved into a Swampert. This has literally always pissed me off. Everyone else got a starter Pokemon that evolved fully except for Brock. What gives? He more than earns it. Are you telling me he doesn't get a Swampert, the objective best Hoenn starter? Like, why not? He deserved one. I hate this so much. It's right there, damn it. I cannot understate how much I hate it. But back on the video, I can't count Natalie as the time Brock wants it, even though she was into him, he wasn't on the count of, you know, being a child, and it was a one-sided crush. I just wanted to talk about it as an example of how things like that shouldn't count unless it's mutual, and, well, just to talk about Lotta. I mean, look at them, how can I not? But we're not actually done with Hoenn. Fast forwarding to the Battle Frontier season has an awesome theme. Specifically, the episode Queen of the Serpentine, which sounds like the name of a Ninjago episode. Here they're in the Battle Frontier facing off against Lucy, the objective best Frontier brain, in the Battle Pike, the objective best Frontier facility. God, the Battle Frontier really was amazing, like the best post-game area of the franchise. Except for you, Spencer, you can go to hell. Unfortunately, the anime Battle Pike isn't nearly as cool. Actually, no, this is a Rockets game this early, and man, Jesse nails the Lucy cosplay. But meanwhile, these three girls try and welcome him where they're staying, but our Maddie already left.
Travel all this way to welcome him for Queen Lucy, and he's got the nerve to be gone?
Look, if it was that big a deal, you could have called ahead or something. It's what made the Pokénap so annoying.
I could care less if he was expecting us or not. This is an outrage. I guess we'll have to teach that smart mouth of yours a lesson.
Bryce, lady, calm down. Do you do this at every mild inconvenience? Scott comes out to calm the situation and says the Battle Pike's not open today. Probably could have said something earlier.
Lucy?
Watch out! As far as you're concerned, she's Queen Lucy!
Okay, she's just Pokey Karen now. Luckily, the real Lucy shows up throwing a weird pinwheel kunai to tell her to F off, and her sheer presence silences everyone. Except for Brock, who goes all in completely smitten. And you know what? I don't blame him. And Pokey Karen comes in to drag him off, furious at offending Lucy's honor. But Lucy is visibly flustered weirdly and tries to hide it. Meanwhile, Rocket makes a getaway and oh come on, did no one see that? But Lucy comes and hey, those weird kunai came in handy. Jesse sends her Viper, but he got nothing against Lucy's Viper and utterly thrashes them. Ash challenges her, but Brock brings up the Pike is close today. But Lucy's again flustered for some reason and accepts the challenge anyway. Brock thanks her, again flirting, until Max the little brat pulls him away. But Lucy's again very visibly flustered and saddened. Anyway, the battle begins and it's normal as usual, but I don't want to go into battles for this video when it's not important. I will say, I do enjoy the post-JoJo battles a lot more. They really get a whole lot better in cinematography, timing, and animation in the digital era. Just note that when Brock compliments Lucy's tactics, he's also very flustered. But yeah, through a tough battle, Ash is the victor and earns the luck symbol. When they give their goodbyes, Brock does one last love ballad asking her to join them, with her again flustered, but Max the little takes them away again. Okay, but why is Lucy randomly into Brock? We soon get the answer at her home full of different Pokemon, all with squinted eyes, and apparently she thinks those squinted eyes are beautiful. Yes, that's why she liked Brock. Don't tell her that those nearly got him written out of the show. But yeah, Brock never got to know this. Lucy was totally into him, and he had no idea. Oh my god, this guy could have had a relation with one of the hottest and coolest characters in the franchise, and it got ruined for him. Like, shut the hell up, Max. This was his dream come true and you ruined it. You know what? You get downgraded. You're going in the F tier. You know what? This one kind of hurts the most, honestly. But yeah, Lucy the Pike Queen is our third girl. Next, we go to Gen 4 in the first series, Diamond and Pearl, the one with the awful rap introduction. Honestly, I think this series is a bit of an improvement from Hoenn. It's still pretty formulaic, but it got a bit better, and I think Dawn's better than May, and no Max, that's a plus. In the episode Tag, We're It. We're starting off with a tag battle here, which Christ has as much fanfare as the league, what the hell? This is basically just a randomized double battle tournament. I think I see these in every region's battle tower. Dawn pairs with this guy named Conway, who I'm pretty sure I stole his design for a character once, who keeps doing the anime guy with glasses pose. Not that I would do anything like that. Meanwhile, Brock gives one of the greatest moments in this show.
Wow! It's the girl!
Seriously, I need this audio clipped. Brock's paired with this girl named Holly to his... well, delight is an understatement, but Kroga, definitely the best one of these guys, is about to do the Simps shutdown maneuver, but he doesn't need to since Holly does it herself.
But I'm just not interested in younger men.
How old are you? Also, Ash pairs with Paul, the worst and most hateable character in this franchise, next to Tobias, and that bitch who trades you a Haunter with an Everstone. Never forgive. So that's a gimmick of this episode. Everyone's paired with people they're not getting along with. I would get into the battles, but again, not relevant to the video, so they'll have to be skipped.
This has got to be the worst battle of all time.
No, that was the Indigo League's final battle. That was god-awful. But Brock and Holly's match happens, where Holly's impressed by Brock's battle aptitude and teamwork with her Wingull, even showing some respect and affection back at him. But this is actually a multi-part episode going to the next run of the tournament, and Holly sees Brock flirting with Nurse Joy, so I guess he's not exactly a one-woman man like his song said. Also, Paul again proves that he's just the worst human being ever and is probably a better Silver than the actual Silver in the games. At least Paul wins most of his battles and doesn't call you a whip despite constantly beating him up. But seriously, this guy proves there should be some Pokemon Protective Services or something.
Of course I'm gonna train them.
Okay, good.
You're gonna get involved in a lot of beatings.
Between other Pokemon, right?
With my fist.
Okay, wow, you're just
Sometimes
gonna
a
say it.
hammer or a
All
rock.
right, yeah.
So, after he abuses his Pokemon, Ash takes Chimchar to the center where Brock looks after him. He always did well with abused and neglected fire types, and Holly's impressed at his skills, remarking that he wasn't just flirting with Joy, but actually knew his stuff. But Brock as a doctor is just ridiculous, isn't it? But the main point of the episode is about Paul and Ash fighting, and Paul going to the point of actively refusing to command Chimchar when he's too traumatized to move on a televised tournament, and literally turns his back on him, proving to everyone he is the worst human being on the planet. Literally to the point where Ash had to take over and command his Pokemon to succeed. Then he straight up releases and abandons Chimchar because of it. At least Ash took care of him and raised them up instead, and beat his ass in the most cathartic battle ever. Chimchar's arc was really good, another reason why I like this series more. Granted, they're not done with the tournament, and it must be pretty damn awkward to fight alongside the guy who literally just abandoned you out of spite. But they're up against Brock and Holly, though they're no match for them. Holly even apologizes for failing. Oh well, at least they built a great relationship. Yeah, it turns out Holly was so ashamed and blamed herself for losing the match, she left to train to be a better partner without saying anything. God damn, that hurts. Like, he legitimately earned this woman's respect over the course of a few days when she had no interest in him. And when he might have gone somewhere, she left because he impressed her too much. That sucks. Anyway, Ash and Paul win the tournament, getting a Soothe Bell, which the Paul must be as worthless an item as mail in a single player game.
What was that for?
I have no need for that.
I actually enjoy this multi-part episode for the fights and character relations, and Conway is a recurring character in the series moving forward. But in the case for the video, it's an interesting development since, as I said, he had to actually earn Holly's affection and did successfully win her over. But too well, as in their defeat she thought he was better off without her, so yeah, that really sucks. He should turn his frying pan into a crying pan. At least it's a nice change up. But anyway, Holly is our fourth girl. But to the next Sinnoh episode, thanks for the memories. Brock's super excited to go to the Mountain Hut Maid Cafe. Are those a thing in Japan? Though actually, this is a direct reference to the games in that one area at the Solaceon town that you get a dozen Moo Moo Milks in and never come back. And Brock doesn't hesitate to get his Floridon with two of the sisters, before Krogan injects him with a lethal dose of anti-simp juice and drags him who knows where. This is also a milk tank farm, the strongest Pokemon coming from Gen 2. But the youngest, Autumn, has trouble with their milk tank, leading to the problem in the episode. Also, Dawn helps out the other maids for really no reason, and makes me think this episode had an ulterior motive. But also so does Ash, which is weirdly not the only time he's cross-dressed in an episode. God, I can just tell this is gonna lead to an interest in femboy Ash, isn't it? Also, Rocket get inspired to make a maid cafe too to make money. You know, before making this video, I legitimately didn't think there'd be a maid cafe episode of Pokemon, but here we are. Anyway, Brock is helping Autumn raise up her milk tank, being his helpful self as usual, giving them tips and exercises to bond with them. Though this goes wrong and leaves her hanging off a bridge as Brock has to help as they fall. But luckily his Apini is there to throw them all up on the other side of the bridge. God, I love Brock's Apini so much. Whoever it was that had the idea to make one of the weakest Pokemon in the game have immense super strength deserves an award. Like, really, seeing this adorable pink thing casually lift up megatons is the funniest thing in the world. It's amazing. But Brock's devotion and encouragement actually starts to make her fall for Brock, even though he never flirted with her, just her older sisters. Anyway, some antics and character development stuff I don't care about before back to the Brockster. This time talking about Pokemon grooming to increase affection and health, predicting Pokemon Refresh a decade before that existed. And Brock's really forgiving and encouraging through Autumn's mistakes and lack of confidence, showing he really is the best guy ever. But then a swarm of Beedrill arrive, again proving they're the only conflict in the universe. But defending Miltank from them does help build their bond. But Rocket shows up since their maid cafe is failing since they have literally no milk, and just need to steal a milk tank. Though for once, obvious balloon is obvious, and the rest of the gang notice and tries to help as they're put in a cage that literally any of Brock's Pokemon should be able to break. And they pretty much do as Happiny learns secret power to escape, and Autumn falls even harder for Brock. Also, what is this Meowth drawing? Luckily the others joined help in the Rocket battle, but Brock wants Autumn to help increase her bond with Miltank. And again, I love this stupid Happiny so much. Anyway, with Rollout, a Miltank's most powerful move, blasts out the Rockets, and finally the two bond. And she gives her sincere thanks, but is too interested in her older sisters to notice. But before they leave, Brock leaves one last word of encouragement to Autumn, inspiring her. This episode was surprisingly enjoyable. I love it when Brock is legit a great helpful guy and can show off his years of breeding skills to someone else. But this one is kind of tricky, because this shouldn't count by the rules. Even if Autumn was into Brock, Brock never explicitly was into her, treating her more as a pupil than a love interest, more to her older sisters. Though I do think there was something there that the two never were able to really express, unlike Natalie, who was way too young. They never actually say how old she is, so it's kind of up in the air how young she is, and she seems to be roughly around Brock's age range. I'm gonna put this as a potential maybe. Anyway, we're not done with Sinnoh in Sinnoh League Victors, with a really disappointing theme compared to the perfection of Battle Dimension's Don't At Me. In the episode, dealing with a fierce double ditto drama, with the gang training in the woods before meeting an imposter piglet they can't tell apart. But hilariously, since Gibble's Draco Meteor always hits them, they use that to find the real one. But they keep shifting and causing trouble.
Forgetting, I'm not like Dawn.
And what's that supposed to mean?
Until gender-bent Flint here, the Fire-type Elite Four member that only has 2 fire types, shows up, revealing the imposters to be Ditto. And when is Shiny neat enough? The girl is Narissa. My Ruby Gilman senses are tingling. And straight up calls Ash a noob. When did this episode come out?
I can't have a noob like you lumping us together.
Is it weird this happened twice in Pokemon? Anyways, she's only doing this for a month and has no badges, so she's really just all bark, no bite. But the Rockets, of course, want to bag the Dittos, which is honestly not a bad plan with how rare they are. But Narissa battles it out and what the hell, she has a Pokédex? Then again, nowadays everyone has them. Remember when it was a super rare and important device, now it's a freaking phone app? Same with Rotom, remember how it was a special encounter and now one comes with your Android phone? Ditto running is something I never thought I needed to see in my life. Anyway, Narissa really does show she's not as skilled as she claims to be. Who's the noob now? Anyway, she's a big sore loser, who would have guessed? Anyway, Brock's not having that and does a weird dolly zoom and says she needs to actually study and train to learn how to use her Pokemon. It even breaks past her attitude where she just cries and wallows in her insecurities, and that's why she's dressed up as Flint, who she admires. Even probably copying only have 2 Pokemon that actually matter. Luckily, Brock's able to encourage her to work past it and truly train her to be the best, making her fall for him and agreeing to train with them, teaching them about type advantages and move pulls and battling with his Apini. Unfortunately, this Apini is again super powered and didn't end too nice. However, this gets interrupted by Rocket finally coming back in. Obviously could have nabbed them in the air. Though hilariously, they try to imitate their Pokemon and don't know how to tell them apart. However, Narissa uses her new knowledge to fight off Rocket copying Ash's Pokemon to gain the advantage. But then they say their obligatory goodbye, and Narissa even kinda flirts back with Brock.
Well, that is if a certain teacher says he likes me better this way.
But that doesn't work as he's spinning with another woman, and then lets out the most horrific scream I've heard from this guy.
Such a pleasure.
Seriously, that belongs in a horror movie. Though apparently seeing this pisses her off and may have regrets her character, I don't know. This episode is like the last one about Brock trying to train someone to be a better trainer, but again, also someone that Brock doesn't directly hold feelings for. I do like, though, how it shows how good a person Brock is, always willing to help people with what he knows, but also implies that he doesn't feel anything for what he considers a student. Either that or he didn't find them attractive. Maybe that afro probably wasn't doing her any favors. Since again, Brock didn't fall for her, it's another maybe. So there's one thing I'm missing before we're through with this era. He did get another girl in Manaphy and the Temple of the Sea, but I really don't want to go through an entire movie plot. This video is long enough as it is, so I'm just going to quickly go over the important stuff. So the gang soon meets a gang of performers practicing their act, meeting a girl named Elizabeth, and Brock's a huge fan of them, surprisingly enough, but then gets pulled away after the usual flirting. May gets a vision of Manaphy thanks to the egg they have, where she says that she has the same dream, and they're descendants of a mysterious people of the water who built the titular Temple of the Sea, get wrapped up trying to send the Manaphy egg to the temple, with help from a Pokemon Ranger fighting not Team Aqua here. Unfortunately, Manaphy is born instead. Is baby Manaphy a Manaphytus? I do love after the massive Destiny mission with a pirate gang after them, they still went out for ice cream and they're trying to be inconspicuous. Anyway, on their trip the two start to get a little closer, but end up in the actual Temple of the Sea. A water temple you actually like to go through. But I actually really didn't see anything that pushes them to like an actual connection like the previous examples. No direct nod of her liking him back really. I still listened to a few girls who like Brock lists, but I didn't see anything that actually cements that aside from just friendly connections. I kind of think people are pushing this unless I missed a scene. So I don't think it really counts. I guess I'll put it as another maybe, but still. Anyway, after Diamond and Pearl, Brock left the show having a new drive to be a Pokemon doctor, which I never really liked since he worked the entire show to be a breeder and demonstrated to so many episodes with advice on how to raise Pokemon and reflected a lot in his team, like the bonds he raised in his opinion just to change it like last minute. Imagine if the show ended with Ash giving up his Pokemon Master Dream to instead be a card game champion. It's just so underwhelming. But we're jumping to the Sun and Moon seasons, where Brock came back a few times, namely Heart of Fire, Heart of Stone. Brock explodes that Akala Island is home to the hottest kahuna, Olivia. Which is very true, Olivia is one of the hottest characters of the franchise and definitely the hottest kahuna. Then again, there's not much competition. And is super excited to meet her, and like every girl, she falls almost as much as Brock falls for her, helping her up with another long flirting ballad. But she's also visibly flustered and seems to actually be into it. Until Misty the Buzzkill takes them away, but Brock's overjoyed being with her. But they get photobombed by the hikers, which is a callback from the games, pissing Brock off that he got Mike Wazowski'd. But hearing Brock was a rock-type gym leader gets Olivia excited, also being a rock specialist, hoping to battle. The battle's fun and the two love the other strategy and Pokemon, but Rocket shoves their way into a plot once again in a frankly awesome-looking mech. So Brock and Olivia work together to fight back, and both work together to do a Continental Crush Z move, and it's a heart-shaped rock, and oh my god, this is my everything. I take it back. This is the perfect relationship. This is so damn good. In-game, Olivia talks about how she's single despite, you know, this is literally a dream come true. But yeah, Brock's overjoyed by all of this, and you know what? They should have had them together. This is the most perfect relationship Brock has had. Brock gym leader to rock leader. They're just so cute together, oh my god. I mean, you wrote them out of the show anyway. Come on, give them a happy ending. I'm gonna headcanon they got together after this episode. Anyway, this does lead for sure another girl who shared Brock's feelings, technically being the next true one. Before I conclude, I just want to say, if you've been enjoying this, please like and subscribe. It really motivates me to keep making more videos. It helps me out. But also that I really want to make more Pokemon, and I want to do a full game retrospective series covering each of the generations, starting with Fire Red. I really want to get into, in a similar style to the Benny video I did last Halloween. And I want to know how many people would want to see it and will watch it, so please let me know if you're down for it, because I want to get started on it as soon as I can. And that's about it. All the Brock relationships I could find. Granted, there's a lot of episodes, there's over 1,300. Can't expect me to get everything. If there's something I missed, please tell me down below. But without further ado, Brock has loved someone and has gotten affection back from Willamina, Tamaku, Lucy, Holly, and Olivia. And counting the maybes, there's Autumn, Narissa, and Elizabeth. Not counting Natalie because she's a child. So that's only 5 for sure girls who liked Brock back, with maybe 8. I was actually expecting a lot more. Again, 1,300 episodes, and very few times did they actually subvert the expectations with Brock's flirting. Funny how Johnny has technically won more than Brock did, at least if you don't count the maybes. It's also funny to compare the two's methods. Like, Brock I feel should get a lot more. Johnny when flirting makes it all about him, showing himself off and being egotistical, basically going, "You're so lucky a guy like me is into you." But Brock's a lot more poetic and flattering to the girls he likes, complimenting them and how lovely they are.
How do you lose a woman?
You forget to cherish her.
Again, he's a lot better than Johnny, but then again, he could really stop being so forward and less handsy. Though, come on, that's gotta work on some ladies. And funny enough, despite being into Jenny and Joy, he hasn't won at all with either of them. Joy is weirder, since he's literally a doctor now and no doubt works with them. But this video also made me gain some more respect for Brock, cause yeah, he's a massive flirt, but he more than shows it's not all he is. He's a very confident fighter and breeder, and so often will help people just because it's the right thing to do. Even helping a lot of the girls he doesn't seem to have any attraction to. And even got some girls to respect and like him a lot more because he is such a great dude. And unlike Johnny, it actually makes you feel he does deserve to have someone who can love and appreciate him, like he's wanted. Because he's genuinely a person who deserves it, and hell, maybe he wasn't so forward with his flirting or his friends and Pokemon don't shoot him down. Maybe he could. I mean, I don't know why it's this low. I mean, surely a lot of girls his age would be into him. Hey, wait. How old is Brock anyway? They never really state, it's super vague. We just know he's older than Ash and usually his other companions, and he's like chronologically ambiguous. Let me check. Wait, he's 15? Brock was 15 the whole time apparently. Well, no wonder you can't score a date with women, dude, you're a minor!
What does this remind you of?
Girls.
Does this remind you of?
Girls.
You are obsessed with girls!
Hey, you're the one showing me all the sexy pictures.